Ever wonder what happens to child stars once the cameras stop rolling? You won't believe the dark secrets they've kept hidden for years. In Hollywood, child stars are often thrust into the limelight before they even understand the world around them. Their faces are plastered on magazine covers, and their names echo in the halls of fame. But behind the glitz and glamour, there's a darker side to growing up in front of the world. In this video, we're going to uncover 15 shocking secrets that child stars have finally exposed. From career struggles to personal demons, we'll reveal what really happened behind the scenes. Stick around as we dive deep into the untold stories of these once famous faces. Number 15. Struggles to lead a normal adult life. For most kids, growing up means learning, making mistakes, and slowly figuring out who they are. But for child actors, their entire childhood was spent in the public eye, scripted, controlled, and judged. So when the cameras stopped rolling, many found it impossible to transition into normal life. Some struggled with identity crises, never knowing who they were outside of Hollywood. Others faced serious mental health battles, having spent their youth constantly trying to meet impossible expectations. Without a structured career path, education, or even basic life skills, many found themselves lost once their acting careers ended. Lindsay Lohan, once one of Hollywood's biggest young stars, later opened up about the difficulty of finding her place in the world. Many child actors like her tried to reinvent themselves but faced rejection, media scrutiny, or personal struggles that made the transition nearly impossible. Should there be better systems in place to help child actors transition into adulthood? Number 14. Sudden career disappearance. Some child actors mysteriously disappeared from Hollywood without explanation. While many assumed they simply quit, the reality was often darker. Some were pushed out due to behind-the-scenes conflicts, personal struggles, or industry politics. Years later, some have finally revealed the truth about why they were forced to leave. How many careers ended not by choice, but by force? Number 13. Manipulated by studio executives. Behind the glitz and glamour, many child actors had little control over their careers. Studio executives held all the power, deciding which roles they took, how they behaved in public, and even managing their personal lives. Some young stars were forced into contracts they didn't understand, while others were threatened with blacklisting if they didn't obey industry demands. These powerful figures shaped their images, controlled their earnings, and sometimes even dictated who they could befriend or date. Speaking out wasn't an option. Any sign of rebellion could mean losing everything. Some child actors later revealed that they were pressured into uncomfortable situations, forced to promote false narratives, and denied opportunities to grow beyond their brand. Shirley Temple, one of the biggest child stars of all time, later spoke about how she was manipulated and mistreated by Hollywood executives. She was expected to be the perfect little girl, both on and off screen, with no say in her own life. How much freedom did these young stars have? Number 12. Unsafe working environments. Hollywood's magic often hides a harsh reality. Many child actors were forced to work in unsafe conditions. Some performed dangerous stunts without proper training, while others endured physical harm due to negligence on set. In some cases, these injuries had lifelong consequences. Studios prioritized profits over protection, expecting young actors to push through exhaustion, harsh conditions, and even physical pain just to get the perfect shot. Safety regulations were often ignored, and when accidents happened, they were covered up or downplayed to avoid bad press. Jonathan Taylor Thomas, a child star from Home Improvement, once revealed that young actors were often expected to work through injuries without proper medical attention. Others, like Drew Barrymore, were put in situations that exposed them to dangerous environments at an early age. Why weren't stricter safety measures in place for young performers? Number 11. Extreme body image expectations. Hollywood has always been obsessed with appearance, and child stars were no exception. Many were pressured to maintain unrealistic body standards from a young age, often being told to lose weight, change their looks, or even undergo plastic surgery just to fit the industry's expectations. This pressure led to severe body image issues, eating disorders, and lifelong struggles with self-esteem. Some young actors were placed on strict diets, while others were given harmful weight loss pills or forced to wear clothing that disguised their natural bodies. The message was clear. Their value was tied to their looks, not their talent. Jeanette McCurdy, known for her role on iCarly, later revealed that she was encouraged to restrict her eating to stay small, which led to a battle with eating disorders for years. The industry's focus on appearances took a serious toll, not just on her body, but on her mental health as well. Why was appearance valued over well-being? Number 10. Harsh judgment from the public. Growing up in Hollywood meant every mistake was under a microscope. While most teenagers make bad decisions in private, child stars have no such luxury. Every rebellious phase, personal struggle, or bad decision became front-page news, with the media and fans quick to criticize and slow to forgive. Some young actors who struggled with mental health issues, addiction, or legal troubles were ridiculed instead of helped. Rather than being seen as kids navigating life, they were labeled as troubled, out of control, or washed up, sometimes before they even turned 20. Instead of guidance, many found themselves blacklisted from Hollywood, cast aside by an industry that once adored them. Lindsay Lohan, a former child star known for The Parent Trap and Mean Girls, faced intense media scrutiny when she struggled with addiction in her early 20s. Instead of receiving support, she was mocked in tabloids and late-night talk shows, her career suffering as a result. While some stars manage to rebuild their reputations, many never get the second chance they deserve. Should young actors be given more room to make mistakes without being permanently labeled? Number 9. Pressured into emancipation. For most teenagers, turning 18 means gaining independence. But for some child stars, freedom had to come much sooner. Many were forced to legally separate from their parents through emancipation just to escape financial exploitation, control, or abuse. While this gave them the ability to manage their careers and earnings, it also meant stepping into adulthood far too soon, often without proper guidance. Some young actors had no choice but to fight for emancipation after realizing their parents had mishandled their fortunes. Others sought legal independence to escape toxic family dynamics or gain control over their personal decisions. But while emancipation granted them freedom, it also came with overwhelming responsibilities, handling contracts, managing finances, and navigating the pressures of Hollywood alone. Macaulay Culkin, the beloved star of Home Alone, made headlines when he filed for emancipation at just 16 years old to prevent his parents from accessing his fortune. While the decision gave him control over his finances, it also forced him to grow up overnight, facing adult pressures with little support. Was this really a choice, or were they pushed into it by a broken system? Number 8. Forced to maintain a false public image. For many child stars, fame didn't just mean acting on screen. It meant acting in real life too. Studios carefully crafted their public images, forcing them to appear wholesome, happy, and perfect, no matter what was really happening behind the scenes. Every interview, public appearance, and even their personal lives were controlled. Some were banned from dating, while others were forced into fake relationships just to boost their image. If a young star was caught in a scandal or made a simple mistake, the consequences could be career-ending. Many lived in constant fear, knowing that one wrong move could turn Hollywood and the public against them. Judy Garland, the beloved star of The Wizard of Oz, was one of the earliest victims of this image control. MGM Studios strictly monitored her diet, forced her to take energy pills, and even dictated her friendships to maintain her girl next door persona. The pressure became unbearable, leading to struggles that followed her for the rest of her life. Number 7. Lack of mental health support. Fame may seem glamorous, but for child actors, it often came with crushing pressure and no emotional support. Behind their bright smiles and flawless performances, many struggled with anxiety, depression, and eating disorders, all while being expected to appear perfect in the public eye. Hollywood demanded constant perfection, forcing young actors to maintain unrealistic images. Any sign of weakness or struggle was brushed aside, and instead of receiving help, many were told to simply push through and keep working. Therapy and counseling were rarely offered, leaving these young stars to battle their mental health issues alone. Some turned to unhealthy coping mechanisms, while others suffered in silence, afraid that speaking up would damage their careers. Britney Spears, who grew up in the entertainment industry, later revealed how overwhelming the pressure was from a young age. With no real support system, she struggled with mental health challenges that eventually played out in the public eye. And she wasn't alone. Countless child stars faced the same emotional toll, with some unable to recover from the damage. Should Hollywood have done more to protect its youngest stars? Number 6. Being taken advantage of by industry insiders. Hollywood's bright lights hide some of its darkest secrets, and for many child stars, the industry was anything but safe. Behind the cameras, powerful insiders took advantage of their status, manipulating or exploiting young actors who had little control over their careers. Many were too afraid to speak out, fearing that exposing the truth would cost them everything: their roles, their reputations, and even their futures in Hollywood. Those who tried to resist or seek help often found themselves ignored or silenced by the very people who were supposed to protect them. Some were pressured into keeping quiet, while others were made to feel as though enduring mistreatment was just part of the business. It took years for some child stars to finally reveal the horrors they endured. Corey Feldman, known for The Goonies and Stand By Me, has spoken openly about the abuse he and his late friend Corey Haim faced as young actors. His heartbreaking revelations shed light on a hidden side of the entertainment industry that few dare to discuss. Number 5. Typecasting and career ruin. For many child actors, fame comes fast, but it doesn't always last. Hollywood has a way of boxing young stars into specific roles, making it nearly impossible for them to break free once they grow up. The very characters that made them household names often became the reason their careers came crashing down. Once audiences connected a child star with a particular role, casting directors refused to see them as anything else. No matter how talented they were, they struggled to land more mature parts. Some spent years trying to reinvent themselves, while others watched their careers fade overnight. Even worse, the industry can be ruthless. When a child actor is no longer cute enough for the spotlight, many are simply discarded and forgotten. A prime example is Mark Hamill, who gained worldwide fame as Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. Despite his acting skills, Hollywood saw him as only Luke, making it difficult for him to land major leading roles outside the franchise. While he later found success in voice acting, not every child star is as lucky. Many fall into obscurity, struggling to find work and battling the emotional toll of being cast aside by the very industry that once adored them. How many child actors truly get to have a second chance in Hollywood? Number 4. Substance abuse. Encouraged by the industry. Hollywood has a dark history of exposing young stars to drugs and alcohol, sometimes by the very people meant to protect them. Instead of being shielded from bad influences, many child actors found themselves surrounded by an industry that normalized substance use. Whether it was at exclusive parties or behind the scenes of a film set, these young performers were introduced to dangerous habits long before they were old enough to understand the consequences. Some were given pills to control their weight, stay awake, or manage stress, while others were pressured into partying alongside adult co-stars. Managers and handlers, who should have been safeguarding their well-being, often turned a blind eye, or in some cases, supplied the substances themselves to keep these young actors working and compliant. Drew Barrymore is one of the most famous examples. After skyrocketing to fame in E.T. the Extraterrestrial, she was exposed to drugs and alcohol as a child, regularly attending Hollywood parties before she was even a teenager. By 13, she was battling addiction and forced into rehab. And she wasn't alone. Many other child stars fell into the same cycle, with some never managing to escape it. Why were these young performers left unprotected in such dangerous environments? Number 3. Controlled and isolated lives. For many child stars, fame came at a steep price, the loss of a normal childhood. While other kids were making friends, going to school, and experiencing life freely, these young actors were trapped in a world where every move was controlled. Managers, agents, and even their parents dictated their schedules, friendships, and even their public image. Some were forbidden from socializing outside of Hollywood, leaving them isolated from kids their age. Instead of play dates and school dances, their days were spent memorizing lines, attending rehearsals, and doing endless promotional work. Many weren't allowed to attend regular schools, with on-set tutors providing just the bare minimum education needed to meet legal requirements. This level of control took a toll on their mental well-being. Without real friendships or a sense of independence, many child stars struggled with loneliness, identity issues, and emotional distress. Some turned to rebellion, while others felt completely lost once their careers faded. Macaulay Culkin, the beloved star of Home Alone, famously stepped away from Hollywood in his teens after years of strict control over his life and finances. How does growing up in isolation impact a child's mental well-being? Number 2, pressured to work under unsafe conditions. Behind the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, child actors were often pushed beyond their limits and forced to endure brutal work schedules that no child should have to face. Long hours on set, little sleep, and extreme pressure to perform became the norm. While audiences saw smiling faces on screen, behind the scenes, these young stars were physically and emotionally drained. Studios prioritized profits over protection, treating child actors like small adults rather than kids who needed rest, education, and a normal childhood. Some were expected to work 16-hour days, often with minimal breaks, leading to exhaustion, illness, and even long-term health issues. The pressure to deliver flawless performances, memorize lines, and keep up with demanding directors left many on the brink of collapse. Judy Garland, one of the most famous child stars of all time, was pushed to extreme limits while filming The Wizard of Oz. She was reportedly given pills to keep her awake and control her weight, leading to a lifelong struggle with addiction. And she wasn't the only one. Many child actors were fed stimulants to stay alert and sedatives to sleep, creating a dangerous cycle of dependency that haunted them into adulthood. Should children be forced to sacrifice their health just to entertain audiences? Number 1. Financial exploitation by parents. Fame and fortune might seem like a dream, but for many child stars, it turned into a nightmare, thanks to their parents. Imagine working tirelessly under bright studio lights, only to grow up and realize that your hard-earned money is gone. Countless child actors trusted their families to manage their finances, only to later discover that their earnings had been squandered, mismanaged, or outright stolen. Some parents treated their children's wealth as their personal bank account, spending it on lavish lifestyles, while their kids remained unaware. By the time these young stars reached adulthood, many found themselves broke, despite years of hard work in the industry. It was cases like these that led to the introduction of laws like the Coogan Law, designed to protect child actors from financial exploitation. But for many, it was too late. The damage had already been done. How many child stars got to enjoy the fortune they worked so hard for? Hollywood has given us some unforgettable child stars, but as we've seen, their lives weren't always as picture-perfect as they seemed. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Or do you know of another child star with a hidden past? Let us know in the comments. And if you love deep dives into Hollywood's untold stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. There's always more to the story. Stay tuned.